After our breakup, she sent me a letter. "I'm pregnant, it's yours and we need to co-parent." I responded, "I'll need a paternity test." She refused. "How dare you doubt me?" So I replied with medical records showing I'd been sterile since my childhood cancer treatment. Her next letter from her lawyer said, "I'm 34, male, logistics coordinator from Ohio. I color code my grocery lists, drive the same beat-up 2009 F-150 I've had for years because it still runs fine, and I call my mom every Sunday without fail. I am not a dramatic person. I do not look for conflict. So when I tell you that the last 14 months of my life turned into something that felt like a bad TV movie, please understand, I did not ask for any of this. My ex and I dated for 2 years. We broke up in March because we wanted different things. She wanted certainty and speed. I wanted to be sure about the future before making big commitments. The breakup was messy but final. I thought that was it. I genuinely thought we were done and I could move on. 11 weeks after we split, I came home from a double shift on a Friday night. My roommate had signed for a certified letter. I didn't even sit down before I opened it. "I'm pregnant. It's yours. We need to discuss co-parenting arrangements immediately. I expect to hear from you within 72 hours. No greeting. No softness. Typed on actual stationery like she was sending a corporate memo. I sat down slowly. Read it again. Then, and I'm genuinely proud of this, I didn't panic, I didn't call her screaming, I didn't text 40 question marks. I put the letter on the counter, made myself a sandwich, and thought it through carefully. Because here's the thing she didn't know. Here's the thing almost nobody knows about me, because it's not exactly party conversation. When I was 11 years old, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. I was lucky, it was caught early, and treatment worked. But the treatment involved radiation. When I was 16, a follow-up fertility assessment confirmed what my oncologist had already prepared my parents for. The radiation had left me completely sterile. Non-functional sperm count, as my doctor put it without much warmth. I had follow-up tests at 21 and again at 29. Same result every single time. There is no ambiguity here, no asterisks, no well maybe under certain conditions. I cannot father children. This is a medical fact that has been confirmed 3 separate times by qualified professionals. I had spent years making peace with this. It wasn't something I carried as grief anymore, it was just a fact about my life, like being left-handed. I had accepted it. So I read her letter one more time. And I felt something cold and clear settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. Not panic. Just clarity. I called my attorney first thing Saturday morning. He told me to respond in writing, stay calm, and immediately request a paternity test. Standard procedure, completely within my legal rights, and protective of my interests. He was very clear, do not admit anything, do not deny anything, just request the test and document everything. So I sent a certified letter back. Short and professional. Thank you for informing me. Before any co-parenting discussion can take place, I will require a paternity test to establish biological parentage. Please let me know how you'd like to proceed. Calm. Reasonable. Legally sound. Her response arrived 4 days later. Not certified mail this time, a handwritten letter, which told me a lot about her emotional state. How dare you? I cannot believe you would question me like this. I have never been with anyone else. This is your baby and you know it. Demanding a paternity test is an insult. I will not subject myself or my child to this humiliation. You need to step up and take responsibility right now. I read it twice. Set it down. Then I walked to my filing cabinet and pulled out a manila folder I hadn't opened in a couple of years. Inside were 3 documents, my oncology records from childhood, my fertility assessment from age 16, and my most recent sterility confirmation from 2020, signed by a board-certified urologist. I had all 3 photocopied and notarized. I put them in a certified envelope. My cover note said simply, "Enclosed, please find medical documentation relevant to your claim. I look forward to your response." I dropped it at the post office on a Tuesday. By Thursday afternoon, I had a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. It was from her lawyer. Very calm, very polished, asking if we could discuss the situation further. No aggression, no demands. Just a smooth request to talk. I called my attorney immediately. He told me not to speak with her lawyer directly under any circumstances. Everything in writing. Everything documented. She sent you a pregnancy claim, he said, and you responded with medical proof that you're sterile. Whatever comes next, you're in a very defensible position. Let them make their next move. Their next move came via certified mail 8 days later. 3 pages from her lawyer. The core of it was this. My ex was now prepared to acknowledge the child might not be biologically mine, but she was claiming I had made verbal promises during our relationship to support any children she might have, and she intended to pursue legal action based on promissory estoppel, a legal doctrine that can enforce a promise if someone relied on it to their detriment. I showed it to my attorney. He read it, set it down, and said, "This is a Hail Mary. She knows the paternity claim is dead, so she's pivoting. Promissory estoppel requires a clear, definite, actual promise, not vague relationship conversations. This is a weak argument, but it's not nothing. We need to respond carefully." I thought we were in okay shape. Then their second letter arrived. Attached to it was a signed, dated, notarized witness statement from her best friend. This friend claimed she had personally overheard me promise my ex that we'd raise kids together no matter what. My attorney went quiet when he read it. Then he looked at me and said, "Do you have anything, texts, emails, anything from that period, that contradicts this?" I went home that night and spent 3 hours going through my phone backup from that time. And I found exactly what I needed. 14 months into our relationship, my ex had pushed me about the future over text. Kids, marriage, timeline. I had been straight with her. I told her I was sterile. Not every medical detail, but clearly and directly. And her response, saved in my backup, said, "I know. I'm okay with that. I love you." Her own words. In writing. Saved on a server somewhere for 2 years. I sent those screenshots to my attorney that same night. He called me the next morning and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "This dismantles the witness statement entirely. She acknowledged your sterility in her own words. There was no promise made, and she knew the full picture. The promissory estoppel claim collapses." But I kept thinking. Because something didn't sit right. If she knew I was sterile, and she did, she said so in that text, then she had sent me that pregnancy letter knowing it was impossible. This wasn't a mistake or confusion. This was a calculated decision. She had looked at her situation, figured I was the path of least resistance, and tried to make it work. Through a mutual friend who stayed neutral throughout all of this, I later found out that my ex had started seeing someone else very shortly after we broke up, possibly before. That person was apparently not interested in stepping up. So she had done the math and picked me instead. She had gambled that I would either be too guilty, too conflict-averse, or too emotionally wrecked to fight back properly. What she hadn't counted on was the folder in my filing cabinet. My attorney sent a formal response to her lawyer, full denial of the promissory estoppel claim, the text message evidence attached, the medical records attached, and a clear notice that if any further false claims continued, we would pursue action for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. 2 weeks of silence. Then her lawyer sent a final letter. My ex was withdrawing all claims. No admission of wrongdoing stated explicitly, but the withdrawal was unconditional. I should have stopped there. My attorney advised me I could stop there. But here's the thing, during those weeks of back and forth, my ex had been talking. She had told several mutual friends that I had abandoned her and my baby. That phrase, my baby, spread through our social circle the way these things do. People I had known for years were getting a version of events where I was the villain who walked out on a pregnant woman. She had tried to weaponize the most private part of my history. She had told people I abandoned a child, knowing full well I was sterile, knowing full well that child was not mine. That was not something I was willing to let go. I talked to my attorney about a counterclaim. He laid it out, I had genuine grounds for defamation based on the abandoned my baby statements made to mutual friends and potentially malicious use of legal process. The text evidence was solid. The medical records were airtight. And the witness statement her friend had submitted, directly contradicted by documentary evidence, created real legal exposure for that friend as well. If you want to push this, my attorney said, you have a legitimate case. Let's push it, I said. Filing the counterclaim changed everything immediately. Her lawyer went from confident and aggressive to suddenly very interested in settlement. The first offer came in about 3 weeks after we filed. My attorney advised me to counter. We countered. They came back lower than I wanted. We held. This went back and forth over roughly 6 weeks, during which I went to work every day, drove my F-150, and called my mom on Sundays like nothing unusual was happening. The final settlement had 3 components. First, financial, enough to cover every dollar of legal fees I had spent defending myself, plus additional damages. Not life-changing money, but it mattered. Second, my ex was required to send written retractions to the mutual friends she had told the abandoned my baby story to. Signed, sent, documented. Third, her friend who had submitted the false witness statement received a formal letter from my attorney outlining her legal exposure for providing a statement directly contradicted by existing documentary evidence. I was told she did not take that well. The retractions were the part that mattered most to me. Because lies travel faster than corrections, and not everyone hears the update the way they heard the original story. But at least it existed in writing. At least the people she had poisoned against me had something in their hands that told them the truth. My ex never contacted me again after the settlement was finalized. The child was born. I don't know who the biological father is, and I'm not going to speculate. That part of the story isn't mine. What I'll say is this: she bet on my history being a wound she could press. She counted on the fact that a guy who can't have kids might feel so much guilt and grief about it that he'd rather just go along than fight back. She thought my medical records were a vulnerability. They turned out to be the thing that ended her entire strategy in one envelope. That folder sat in my filing cabinet for years, and I never thought it would matter for anything other than annual checkups. Now every time I see it, I think about how the thing you least want to be true about yourself can be exactly the thing that protects you when someone decides to come for you. I don't carry this as a victory exactly. More like a reminder that documentation matters, attorneys matter, and staying calm when someone is trying to destabilize you is one of the most powerful things you can do.